As part of our studies about the relationship between diet and cancer, I'm happy to have here with me Greta McCare. Greta is the outpatient dietitian at the University of California, San Francisco, Helen Diller Family Comprehensive Cancer Center. Thank you for joining us today, Greta.
Thank you for having me.
So could you just tell us a little bit about what you do as a dietitian in a cancer center with UCSF on a daily basis?
On a daily basis, I meet with patients for individual nutrition counseling, usually at the beginning of their cancer treatment, to go over what are important nutrition components during their treatment, how to manage their side effects. And then when they're done with their treatment, I can meet with them and talk about what are the recommendations for a healthy cancer survivorship. I also teach group classes talking about nutrition in breast cancer, nutrition in prostate cancer, and general nutrition and cancer-related topics on a monthly basis.
For your breast cancer patients, for people, or even just in the general community that are interested in what they can do from a diet and weight standpoint to prevent breast cancer, what would you suggest?
The most important things thinking about ways to reduce the risk of developing breast cancer are to maintain a healthy weight, to exercise regularly, to eat more of a plant-based diet, and to breastfeed.
Okay. For women who are going through cancer treatment in breast cancer, are there any particular research that you draw upon to make recommendations about, anything specific to breast cancer for the management of that?
Well, certainly when women are going through breast cancer treatment, they may face the same challenges that people with other types of cancer that are undergoing surgery, chemotherapy, or radiation may face, things like nausea and fatigue. But in regards to breast cancer, one of the primary nutrition problems is really looking at overweight and obesity. We know that overweight and obesity adversely affects breast cancer prognosis, and women often report weight gain after diagnosis with breast cancer.
Why is that?
That's a good question. We don't really have all of the answers figured out in regards to why women gain weight after diagnosis. Part of it could be treatment causing fatigue and reducing their activity levels. Also, hormone changes related to breast cancer treatment can cause them to gain weight. So we're doing more studies on that right now to figure out why they gain weight typically after diagnosis.
Many people talk about the relationship, or they question the role of soy foods and soy supplements in the development and progression of breast cancer. What can you say about those two things?
Well, that's a really common question. I probably answer that question multiple times a day in my job. But one thing I want to assure women either at risk for breast cancer or trying to reduce their risk, or if they've had breast cancer, is that it's actually safe for them to consume moderate amounts of soy foods. And what that means is 1 to 2 servings of whole soy foods such as tofu, edamame, or soy milk have been found to be completely safe. And there's been several human studies now verifying that eating soy foods does not increase the risk of recurrence or death for breast cancer survivors, or even increase the risk of developing breast cancer.
Do you recommend supplements then? If people don't like soy foods, should they take soy supplements?
No, I definitely wouldn't recommend taking soy supplements. There's no evidence to say that soy is going to prevent breast cancer. So if somebody enjoys eating soy foods, that would be fine for them to keep eating them. But taking soy supplements is actually not recommended. We don't have enough evidence on the safety of soy supplements.
And you mentioned that you have the opportunity to teach classes about breast cancer survivorship. What do you find are some common threads that make a healthy breast cancer survivor from a diet standpoint?
I think one of the fundamental things we need to look at is weight management, because we do know that gaining weight after diagnosis is associated with an increased risk of recurrence and death from breast cancer. So I think we really want to look at focusing not necessarily on just cutting calories, but eating healthier foods, more plant-based foods, more vegetables, fruits, switching from refined grain products to whole grain products, limiting red meat, avoiding processed meats, and cutting back on sugary drinks, sugary foods, and just watching portion sizes in general.
How about the role of alcohol in breast cancer? What can you suggest to people who are either at risk for developing it or who might have breast cancer?
Certainly we know that any amount of alcohol is going to be associated with an increased risk of developing breast cancer. So even 1 drink a day is going to increase the risk of developing breast cancer. We don't have as much research on how alcohol affects breast cancer survivors, although some studies have found that when women are consuming 3 or more standard drinks per week, they do have a higher risk of recurrence, especially if they are overweight and postmenopausal. So the less the better is really the advice that I give, and to really minimize alcohol intake.
Great. Well, thank you so much for your time. That's some great information for our students. And is there anything else you'd like to add about the relationship between diet and breast cancer?
One thing I would just like to say is sort of a quick, easy tip, something to think about for breast cancer survivors, is that for early stage breast cancer, there was an interesting study that found that consuming 2.5 cups of vegetables and fruits per day, along with the combination of 30 minutes of exercise, improved overall mortality by 50%. So those are 2 pretty easy things that people can strive to do on a daily basis that can have a huge impact on their survivorship.
Great advice. Thank you so much.
You're welcome.